Hello, my very good friends. On today's sensational edition of Comic Book News, 4 generations of Captain America unite, Supergirl takes flight, and Deadpool gets a new book in black and white. All that, plus DC's Infinite Frontier looks bright, Heroes Reborn prepares for a fight, and Cable says goodnight. So, let's get right to it. I'm Henry, and this is the news. Alright, first off, 4 generations of Captain America will be teaming up this June in the pages of the United States of Captain America. Now, this limited series will be written by Christopher Cantwell and features the art of Dale Eaglesham and follows Steve Rogers as he travels across the country searching for his missing shield. Along the way, he is joined by Sam Wilson, Bucky Barnes, and John Walker, aka the Falcon, the Winter Soldier, and U.S. Agent, 3 of the men who have previously picked up the mantle of Captain America when Steve was unavailable to do so. Now, as they travel across the country, these heroes meet new heroes that they have inspired through their patriotic deeds, and each issue is going to have a backup story on one of these new characters that we are meeting. The first issue is going to have a backup story by Josh Trujillo and Jan Boswalda, and this book sounds really fun to me. I've enjoyed what I've read of Christopher Cantwell's work on Iron Man. I haven't gotten to Doctor Doom yet, but it was nominated for an Eisner Award, so it's got to be pretty great. And I love Dale Eaglesham's art. I think he's actually a really great fit for Captain America, and I really liked about 10 years ago he did a miniseries called Steve Rogers' Super Soldier that took place during Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America, and I love that book. It was just really, really pretty. Dale Eaglesham's art is always really, really pretty in my opinion, and I think this book sounds like it should be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see all these characters brought together. It's kind of like last year they did a Falcon and the Winter Soldier book, but this is like Falcon and Winter Soldier and Captain America and U.S. Agent. So it's even more bang for your buck. It should be really cool, and I'm excited for it. The Girl of Steel sets course for a new adventure this June in the pages of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Now, this 8-issue limited series will be written by Tom King and features the art of Bilquis Evely and follows Supergirl as she tries to step out of the shadow of her very famous and very powerful cousin, Superman. In this story, Supergirl is approached by a young alien woman who is trying to save her planet from being destroyed, and of course that resonates with Supergirl deeply because, you know, that's kind of the story of Krypton, and she goes off and she tries to save the day. This should be a pretty fun book. If nothing else, it's going to be a stunningly beautiful book. I love Bilquis Evely's art. She is one of my favorite artists working on comics today, and she's coming off of a very popular run on the Dreaming from the Sandman universe of comics, and I'm really excited to see her drawing Supergirl. And we also know that Krypto is going to be a big part of the story, so if nothing else, the story is going to be really pretty, and it features Supergirl and her dog traveling the stars, and I like that. We got a little bit of that in the Mark and Draco version of Supergirl a couple years ago. And, you know, this will be coming out in June, and if you're interested in Supergirl, this is a great place to start. In the wake of death metal, the DC Universe has given way to the DC Omniverse. But what dangers lie beyond the horizon? These questions will be answered in the pages of Infinite Frontier, a new 6-issue miniseries coming out this June from writer Joshua Williamson and artist Zermanico. Now, in order to properly discuss this book, I'm going to have to talk about Infinite Frontier number 0, which came out this past week. So I'm slapping a big old spoiler warning because I'm going to absolutely talk about all the things that happened in that book. So if you haven't read that book, go pick it up. It is a very fun book, and you can go ahead and you can skip ahead to this timestamp if you want to avoid the spoilers. Otherwise, you have been warned. Alright, so in order for me to properly talk about this, you're going to get some genuine fanboy Henry because I have to actually talk about all the nerdy things that happened in Infinite Frontier number 0 this week. So, at the end of Dark Knight's death metal, the DC Universe basically gave way to the DC Omniverse, which means that every single story that has ever happened in any DC comic published over the last 80 years is now canon, which is really cool, and it means that there are infinite frontiers that they could explore. Haha. But this new story, Infinite Frontiers, is going to follow a few of these plot threads in particular as they kind of seem to clean up continuity. So it's going to be focusing on the Green Lantern Alan Scott. That's right, the OG Green Lantern from the Golden Age is back, and he is trying to find his friends who have gone missing. Meanwhile, some of these people who have gone missing don't necessarily want to be found, such as the recently resurrected Roy Harper, who we got a little glimpse of in Infinite Frontier number 0. So, yay, Roy is back from the dead. I am very happy about that. Then beyond that, we've got Barry Allen. He has joined the Justice Incarnate. Justice Incarnate is like the omniversal version of the Justice League, and they patrol the multiverse and all of reality ever. They're from a lot of the Grant Morrison work like Multiversity, and he's teaming up with President Superman, who is another, Grant Morrison favorite character, and all of this is really crazy. At the same time, we've also got Darkseid watching from the shadows, and he's probably going to attack and punch somebody and, mega beam somebody at some point. But this is kind of like an event that isn't an event. We don't really know the scale. We don't know if anything's going to tie into it. Personally, I hope that nothing ties into it. I'd like just for a clean little continuity sweep book that this is, for the deep fans that want to know all the answers to all the different stuff. I do think this book sounds really cool, and it's going to be coming out in June, so hopefully it's good. I have faith in Joshua Williamson. I have loved everything he's done for DC, and I think he's got a really great voice for all these different characters, and if nothing else, he's continuing his work with Barry after 100 plus issues of Flash, so I'm pretty excited for that, and I'm excited for this book.
Deadpool is getting ready to celebrate his 30th anniversary this year, and what better way to do that than with a little bit of blood? This August, Marvel Comics presents Deadpool, Black, White, and Blood, an anthology series featuring a who's who of comic book creators. Now I say that because we don't actually know who is working on this book. All we have seen so far is this lovely cover by artist Declan Shalvey that you see here. I think this is a really natural fit for Deadpool. We have seen Marvel recently produce Black, White, and Blood books for Wolverine, and Carnage comes out in a couple weeks, so I think that Deadpool is a natural choice for the next incarnation of this series. I really like that we've been playing around with format more and doing these artistically driven books, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some really dynamic creators unleash their potential on this. Maybe even creators we've seen from Deadpool's past, but if I were to speculate, maybe like a Joe Kelly, Ed McGuinness story, or a Rob Liefeld story, somebody who has had to restrain themselves in the past and can just go all out crazy. So this book will be coming out in August, and I'm very curious to see what names are eventually attached to it.
The next chapter of Peach Momoko's Demon Days story comes out this June in Demon Days Mariko. Now this one-shot follows up on Demon Days X-Men, but only tangentially, keeping together the common thread of Mount Kurosaki, but otherwise changing the time period and the characters that we see. This new one-shot is going to introduce us to the Demon Days incarnation of Black Widow and Nightcrawler, and I think it'll be really cool. I think it's interesting that Peach Momoko decided that she wanted to do this over a series of different one-shots, but it does ensure the quality of the art, which is arguably the biggest draw for the series. So if you are a fan of Demon Days X-Men and you are looking for the next chapter, June, that's when you can expect it. And I'll be picking up the hardcover whenever this is all done, because I do think that it is going to be a book that I want to have in my collection.
Marvel's most violent characters are taking down terrorists this June in Heroes Reborn, Squadron Savage. Now this one-shot will be written by Ethan Sachs and features the art of Luca Pizzari and follows the Punisher and Elektra and Crossbones and Cloak and the new character, Murder Hornet. This team is basically like the dark, angsty version of the Squadron Supreme. While the Squadron Supreme can't be seen doing horrible things to people, Squadron Savage can. I think it sounds like a fun storytelling opportunity for a one-shot, and Ethan Sachs does a great job with one-shots. He has written quite a number of them for Marvel over the last few years, so I'm very excited to see how this one turns out.
The Squadron Supreme has America's best interest in mind, but who looks out for Canada? Eh? That is the question at the heart of Heroes Reborn, Weapon X, and Final Flight, a new one-shot coming out this June from writer Ed Brisson and artist Roland Bashi. Now this focuses on the Heroes Reborn equivalent of Wolverine and Alpha Flight as they team up to take on the tyranny of the Squadron Supreme and try to defend the wasteland that is Canada. It also features a very pretty cover from Tony Daniel, who does not do a lot of work for Marvel, so there's a nice little novelty to that, and I think it sounds like it's going to fill in an interesting void in the Heroes Reborn world that we otherwise wouldn't really see, and should be cool.
The legendary superhero career of Sam Wilson comes to a tragic end this June in the pages of Heroes Reborn, Marvel Double Action. Now, as the title would imply, this is actually the Heroes Reborn incarnation of the Falcon, and this one-shot will tell the story of how he died via writer Tim Seeley and artist Dan Jurgens. It seems like it's going to be an homage to The Day Gwen Stacy Died, a classic Spider-Man storyline, but Sam Wilson takes the place of Gwen Stacy, and Nighthawk takes the place of Spider-Man. But the Green Goblin still kills people, so you have that constant running through it. I think this sounds fun. I'm really happy that Dan Jurgens is drawing it because I love Dan Jurgens' art, and I think it's rare to see him on a Marvel book, so that adds a fun little novelty to it. And this sounds like it'll fill in the continuity, the greater continuity of the Heroes Reborn universe well, and I'm looking forward to it.
The Age of Vigilantes is over, and Police Commissioner Luke Cage has to rein them in the pages of Heroes Reborn, American Knights. Now, this one-shot is being written by Paul Greist and features the art of Christopher Allen and is due out this June, and follows Luke Cage as he tries to crack down on crime and take out the criminals and the vigilantes that are plaguing his city, bringing him into contact with the likes of Nighthawk and Saint, who is the Heroes Reborn incarnation of Daredevil. I think this sounds neat. It is the Marvel Knights homage, but in Heroes Reborn, everything is kind of twisted. There's something inherently wrong about seeing Luke Cage as a police commissioner, but I'm definitely interested in seeing how that happened in this continuity, so I'll be checking out this comic in a few months.
Marvel has announced that they'll be ending their current Cable series with the release of issue number 12 this June. The book started last year and has been written by Jerry Duggan with art by Phil Noto for every single issue of the series, which I think is pretty awesome. I'm sad to see this book go because I've actually really enjoyed it. It was one of the highlights of the X-Men relaunch just because it was so weird and fun and ridiculous. I mean, it was Kid Cable facing off against like the Space Knights and traveling through time. And I really enjoyed it, and I like the ways that it brought in classic Cable into the story. I'm curious to see where this book goes and how it ends as well, just because are we going to end up with Cable sticking around? Are we going to have Old Man Cable coming back? I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But I do think it's interesting that Marvel actually announced that they're canceling it, because a lot of the time they kind of just end a book and they don't really say anything about it. So knowing that the ending is going to be happening means that this was probably planned from the beginning, and there are definitely more X-Men books that are going to be filling in that spot in the publishing line. So I am very optimistic for the X-Men's future, even if Cable's not a part of it.
The saga of Jupiter's Legacy reaches its natural conclusion this June with the release of Jupiter's Legacy Requiem. Now, this 12-issue series will be written by Mark Millar and has art by Tommy Lee Edwards and covers from original series artist Frank Quitelli. It follows up on all of the plot threads that were laced in the original Jupiter's Legacy and now sees them through as man and superhuman work together to create a utopian society, but of course, nothing is ever truly that simple. Jupiter's Legacy is about to be a very hot property because we have the Netflix show starting off in May. So when this book comes out in June, presumably a lot of people will have seen the Jupiter's Legacy show on Netflix and then checked out the comics, and then they can jump into this. 12 issues is a great length, and I think it's really smart putting Tommy Lee Edwards on the book just because he's an artist that can really hit those deadlines and produce a high quality series that fans want to have after all this time. I think it'll be really cool, and I'm very curious to see how everything wraps up.
Writer Neil Gaiman reunites with artist Colleen Doran for the graphic novel adaptation of his short story, Chivalry. Now, this story will be coming out in graphic novel form this September and focuses on an elderly woman who finds the Holy Grail in a secondhand shop and is then courted by an ancient knight who hopes to win her favor and, by proxy, the Holy Grail itself. This sounds absolutely delightful, and Neil Gaiman and Colleen Doran have made wonderful books together in the past that have won Eisner Awards and have been nominated for countless other awards as well. So I think that this should be really fun and a great accessible read for anybody who's just looking for a good time.
Aftershock Comics have announced a new paranormal series called Out of Body, due out this June from writer Peter Milligan and artist Inaki Miranda. The series follows a man who wakes up in the hospital paralyzed and has to use astral projection to go out into the world to find out the circumstances that got him in the hospital in the first place before his life support is shut off. The book sounds like it's got a really cool pitch, a really great hook, and Peter Milligan has done a great job with paranormal series in the past. I've always liked Inaki Miranda's art, and I loved what he did with Old Lady Harley a couple years back, so I think this one sounds like a winner to me.
A feature-length documentary on Hellboy creator Mike Mignola was launched and fully funded on Kickstarter last week. The project, called Mike Mignola Drawing Monsters, focuses on his career in comics and the impact that his work has had across comic books and film. It features interviews from the likes of Guillermo del Toro, Vida Ayala, Doug Jones, Adam Savage, Joe Quesada, and many more names from the worlds of comic and film. It sounds like an incredible project, and I'm really glad it got fully funded just because we don't get a lot of comprehensive looks at the legacy of comic book creators, so this definitely puts it in a rarefied space. If you are interested in the project, you can find it on Kickstarter or in the link that I have put in the description of this video, and there's still many tiers of rewards available, including original art.
And in my final news story for this week, Netflix has picked up the rights to adapt the upcoming Image Comics series, Shadecraft. Now, the book is being written by Joe Henderson and has art by Lee Garbett, who is the creative team behind Skyward, which is another project that is currently being adapted, this time for a movie. So, Shadecraft follows Zadie Liu, a young girl who is being chased by shadows, and then something terrifying happens. I actually got to read an advanced copy of Shadecraft and I really liked it, and I can see exactly why Netflix thinks it'll make a great TV series, because it was a really great read. Now, Henderson will actually be working on this adaptation himself. He also works on the Lucifer TV show that Netflix is producing, so you can kind of see how this came together. Joining him will be Georgia Lee, who works on The Expanse as well as The 100. I think this is going to be a great show if it, actually happens, because I really like the comic book, so if the comic is good, hopefully the TV show is good as well. If you haven't already added Shadecraft to your pull list for later this month, I highly recommend keeping an eye out for it when it comes out, because it is a great read, and I have very high expectations for where the book goes from here. So that's it. Tell me, what was your favorite story that I talked about this week? Let me know in the comment section below. We could have a fun little chit chat about comics. And while you're at it, can you please like this video and share with your friends so they too can enjoy the goodness of comic book news. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and sign up for notifications so you can stay up to date whenever I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching this. It really means a lot. And if you are interested, you can follow me across social media at White Cuban, where I continue to talk about comic books or TV shows or movies or wrestling or toys or Pokemon or whatever. And if nothing else, I will always be here. I'll always be talking about comics, and I'll be here next Monday with more comic book news.